Okay, by now you should have been told to go get your notebook and a calculator because you are going to need both of these for this page that you are going to put in your notebook on page 56. And this page is on square roots and perfect squares. You got a square root chart last week, which should help you. You should be kind of familiar with square roots, but we're going to go ahead and pick up where you left off. So a square root is a number that when multiplied by itself equals the given number. So if we're trying to find the square root of 58, you're trying to think what number times itself is 58. If you look at your square root chart, you're probably not going to see it on there. So then you get your calculator, and it's totally acceptable to use it because we're not going to guess and check all the time. So you put 58 in, and then square root, you get this really big long number. All we need is 2 decimal spots. So 7.615, 5 rounds the 1 up to a 2. So 7.62. So the square root of 58 is 7.62. And that is because 7.62 times 7.62 equals 58. If I pull my calculator up, I'll show you 7.62 times 7.62, it's going to be very close to 58. 58.0644. It's very close. With square roots, they're not going to be exact. If you need time to pause the video so you can write something down, all you have to do is go ahead and pause and then pick up where you left off. So moving on then, every positive number has a positive and a negative square root. So if you're thinking of the square root of 36, well, one of them is 6 times 6 is 36. So we know the square root of 36 is 6. Okay, but there's also another number, and it might be kind of tricky for you to think of. Well, that would be negative 6 times negative 6 is also positive 36. So that's where we have 2 answers. And the way that you show there's 2 answers here is if you look at this symbol in front of the 6, that means positive 6, and negative 6 is the answer for the square root of 36, because both of those numbers work. Okay, this note at the bottom says, see your square root chart for a list of square roots for numbers 1 through 50. Okay, now perfect squares are a special type of square root. So a perfect square is a number with a whole number as the square root. So no decimals are allowed in perfect squares. If you look at the square root of 9, okay, that's a perfect square. So there's 9 squares here. The square root of 9 would be the side length. You can see 3 by 3. Okay, square root of 9 is a perfect square because 3 times 3 is 9, and that does not involve any decimals. All square roots on the square root chart are perfect squares because there are no decimals. You might want to go ahead and write down no decimals. In perfect squares, there's no decimals. Okay, now what I want you to do next is to find the square root of each number, then decide perfect or not. So go ahead, pause the video, find the square root of 441, the square root of 53, write it down. When you're done, push play, and the answers will pop up. So the square root of 441 is 21, and because there are no decimals, it's a perfect square. Now the square root of 53, when you type that in the calculator, you found it's about 7.28. Because there are decimals, it is not perfect. Okay, you should have put this page in your notebook on page 56. If you have not yet, go ahead and do that. The next thing that you're going to do is start your notes sheet.